Hello, my name is Mauro. Today I will be your news reporter. Today we are going to start talking about earthquakes. But before we start, you have to learn what an earthquake is. Earthquakes are shakings that happen close to the Earth's crust, creating seismic waves. Seismic waves are waves of energy that travel along the world, with different movements, giving them different names. What happens during the earthquake is the seismic waves. That is what you are experiencing. Yeah. There are three types of seismic waves. Number one being the P waves, number two being the S waves, and number three being the surface waves. In a normal earthquake, the P waves comes first, then comes the S wave, then comes the surface wave, and after it's all done, small P waves happen. What is a seismograph? Seismographs are tools or instruments that measure and record the seismic waves that happen during earthquakes.
Yeah.
Before I teach you how scientists figure out the epicenter of an earthquake, I have to teach you what the epicenter is. The epicenter is the center of the earthquake, or where the earthquake is born. Now, how do scientists find the epicenter of an earthquake? They use the satellites up in space to look down at the surface of the world. If the earthquake has more than 3 seismic waves, you can find the epicenter of the earth, or of the earthquake. So, you have to take a map of the surface of the world, draw 3 circles depending on the degree of the seismic wave, and in the middle where all 3 of those circles intersect, that is the epicenter of the earthquake. Now that we know all of this information, we have to get to the point to understand how do earthquakes happen. Earthquakes are usually created or caused when rock underground suddenly breaks along a fault, then suddenly release waves of energy called the seismic waves that affect the Earth's crust, making the ground shake. We know how to find the epicenter of an earthquake, but we still don't know how scientists like me measure the earthquakes. Not just measure, but rate them, how deadly they are. We developed a really important way of figuring this out. We called it the Richter scales. I am going to show you an example of an earthquake. An example of an earthquake was in Nepal, between Kathmandu and the city of Pokhara. A 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck Nepal in an area between the capital, Kathmandu, and the city of Pokhara on Saturday, April 25th, 2015, which was described as a force equaling of 20 thermonuclear weapons. Right now I just taught you a lot of things, but I bet you still have one question in your mind. How can we humans be safe from the great natural causes of the earth, known as earthquakes? Before we build a house, we would like to talk to a professional like me about how to build it. It would be better if the roof of your house would be light, not heavy. Also, it would be good for you to know how to turn off your gas and water mains. It would be also very good, so if you are trapped, let's say a piece of the ceiling fallen is blocking your door, to have an underground storage room where you can have food and lots of things. You would also have to have a center of your house, which will be directed by a rod that deflects the earthquake waves and brings them down. This is really good, but you should also use dampers. They cost a little bit more, but if an earthquake happens, it will be more to your benefit. We've learned about earthquakes. What are earthquakes? What are types of seismic waves? What is a seismograph? How do scientists find out the epicenter of an earthquake? Why do earthquakes happen? How are earthquakes rated? What is one of the worst earthquakes that has happened? How can people stay safe from earthquakes? And now there's only one more thing left for me to teach you. How do earthquakes happen? Most earthquakes happen along the oceanic and continental plate. This is because the Earth's crust is made out of little pieces called plates. Most of the plates have disasters or accidents when they are close to boundaries like these ones. They can either slide apart from each other, they get crushed into each other, creating other waves called seismic waves, which we already learned about, and they can also collide into each other. That is all I have to teach you. I appreciate you listening to all of my tips and my definitions. Also, what you would do if an earthquake were to happen. Thank you. My name is Mauro Madeira, and I'll see you in the next earthquake report.